I'm excited to talk about the future of law. When I talk about the future of law, it's a topic that pertains to all of us. The reason it pertains to all of us is because the future of the law pertains to the future of the country. India is no exception. India deals with all of us, a billion of us rather, through the rule of law. What I'm here to tell you about is how this rule of law is going to fundamentally perhaps change in the next 5 to 10 years. Before I do that, I'm going to connect law to justice. And to do that, I'm going to quickly show you the preamble of the Constitution. So this is our Bible, and our Bible tells us that we, the people of India, are resolving to secure inter alia justice, social, economic, and political to all its citizens. Basically, what the Constitution tells us, and what our founding fathers wanted us to know, is that justice, so far as India is concerned, is above all. Why that's important for today's talk is because the future of law is connected by the hip to justice. Law that is bereft of justice is no law at all. A constitution that is bereft of justice is perhaps not a constitution at all. And why that's important is the future of law, that is technology, will perhaps change how each one of you is going to access that justice. I will spend the next 15 minutes trying to explain to you the huge sea change that we are going to expect to see in the next 10 years in the access to that justice that is promised to us in the Constitution. So to that, I will quickly take you to a press release. Stanford has set up a platform called Codex, and what Codex has is a bunch of intelligent people, and they're thinking about how the law would look 20 years hence. And to do that, they wrote up a press release that would sort of describe the nature of the law 20 years hence. One of them came up with this. He says, based on the last 3 years of data, it appears that law school admissions have stabilized at 10% of 2017 levels. Now that 90% of legal work has been automated, AI didn't indeed kill the lawyers. The point I'm trying to make is not that lawyers are going to be killed or that they will not be needed anymore, but the fact that I just reinstated that law is going to fundamentally change. To understand the potential change in law, I have tried to include all of the software that exists and all of the software that is proposed into 3 groups. The first group, let's call it legal document management. The second one, legal infrastructure management. And the third, computational law. How each one of us interacts with the law is through a document. I'm sure each one of you remembers the stamp paper that you executed to get admissions to colleges and various universities and various other government offices. The green paper that is bigger than your A4 size paper. Those red notarized papers that you had to execute before you actually got anything done from government. Now, all of that brings to mind drudgery. It brings to mind trial and tribulation. To do away with that, some intelligent people thought of digitizing that document. And hence, they took that document which was in plain paper and created a digital copy of that. Then somebody a little more intelligent thought, why should we just digitize an existing document? Let's create the digital document itself. Which is why today, even in the state of Maharashtra, you can make applications to your local self-government through digital documents. Now, what this digital document did was it started a movement which we now call LawTech. The digital document created the masala for other more intelligent people to build intelligent technologies, including through the use of artificial intelligence, to create stuff which I think, at least so far as I'm concerned, is magic. And I'm going to take you through that journey to explain to you what this magic can potentially do. Now, all of us have executed contracts, right? And it perplexes me how very few of us know that there is technology for the last 10 years that will help you assemble contracts like you assemble a Lego, that will help you understand contracts without a lawyer, complex contracts, whether these contracts are good for you What should you change in the contract to make it good for you? In fact, for the last 3 or 4 years, you have law bots. You have automated technology that will help you negotiate a contract. Case in point, the UK has a bot called Visa. And what Visa does is if you want to enter into an NDA with another party, you can go to Visa, you can tell her, hey Visa, I'd like to do these things and I want that in my NDA. And what Visa does is she reaches out to the other party and she asks the other party what he or she would want in the NDA. And that is then inculcated into the NDA and the NDA comes out for free. So the entire process of contract negotiation is reimagined and you get an NDA for free. This might sound interesting, but this is again elementary. People who did that then thought, why not do stuff with legal infrastructure, because these are the huge pain points. And for anyone who's actually been to court is not fun at all. So people came out with elementary software like video call or court call, where you could actually video conference to a court. You could actually attend court from the confines of your home. This was interesting, especially for convicts. It was used by a judge in the United States, where she saw that so far as criminal trial is concerned, every day you'd have 100 or 100 trials coming to her court. She could avoid that by actually using video conferencing, and they could actually sit in prison and talk to her. More peaceful. Then you have systems that can automate decision making. I'm not sure how nuanced they are, but this is work in progress. Then some intelligent people said, gee, we've done this, what do we do more? And these are 3 use cases I'd like to talk to you about, and these are very exciting. The reason they're exciting is because the question that I'm asked often when I talk about technology in the law is, how is the unassuming computer or software going to replace a very highly paid lawyer? And the reason a lawyer is highly paid is because he has dedicated his life to the knowledge of law, and he also brings experience. Now, how could an unassuming software replace that? And the answer, ladies and gentlemen, is right here. Lex Machina, Premonition AI, and Case Crunch are 3 good examples of how artificial intelligence could give even super lawyers a run for their money. So what Lex Machina did was, going back to the age of digitizing documents, they went and read up every court case there is in the United States in a particular domain. So let's assume that you have a problem with patents, or if you have a problem with product liability. What they did was they went and read up all the cases there are to read up and digitize them on patents. So when you have a problem in patents, you go to Lex Machina and you say, I have a problem in patents, what do I do? Your typical reaction would be to go to your friend or go to somebody who would suggest a lawyer to you. Lex Machina says, that's a bad idea. Come to us. We will run your problem as against our huge data set, and we will predict with a level of accuracy as to what your outcome is going to be. So they will in fact tell you whether you're going to win or lose your case, especially in the context of a particular court or judge. Now that's a huge game changer, because that's precisely what very expensive and experienced attorneys take. They've told you, using their experience, what you should do. Now here is a further nuance. Lex Machina and the platforms like Lex Machina do a better job at predicting, because they give you an objective analysis based on their understanding of the entire universe of cases there is. And the answer that you perhaps get from an individual lawyer or a group of lawyers perhaps is subjective to their experience. To further nuance this is the next use case, which is premonition. Now, premonition does the same thing. It uses the same artificial intelligence. And it runs it runs your data set or your problem as against the artificial intelligence, against its huge data bank, and it tells you which lawyer to hire. They did that a few times, and they found out in the United States that not in all cases does money buy you the best. So they found out that in particular cases, in particular jurisdictions, perhaps the lawyer down the street who sits in a strip mall and charges you 1/10 the price of the lawyer who sits in a glass office is a better bet. They've in fact coined the term called strip mall heroes for such lawyers. And it's exciting because what it does is it fundamentally changes your perception of what this opaque field of the law is. The reason it's opaque is because you only deal with it when you're forced to deal with it. And what's interesting is Premonition calls themselves a perception versus reality company. So what they want to do is they want to use their artificial intelligence to tell you the difference between what the perception is, whether it's yours or society's at large, as opposed to what reality is. And that's a bitter pill to swallow so far as the entire justice administration machinery is concerned, because perception, in my opinion, is a very important thing so far as the machinery is concerned. And my next slide will sort of further help me explain that. Case Crunch is a similar company that uses artificial intelligence, and they will compare your problem with their data set to tell you exactly what the outcome should be. So they're also in the business of predicting stuff. But what they did was they ran their machine against a bunch of really expensive lawyers in London. And no surprises for guessing that the machine came up 86% accurate, rather 86.6% accurate, while the lawyers were a distant second at 62.3%, and these are really expensive lawyers. The point I'm trying to make is not, again, that lawyers are going to become redundant, but the fact that there is going to be a sea change so far as our perception of the practice of law is concerned, our perception of how we can access the justice administration system is concerned. And believe you me, this is what we already have. This is technology that we have. What people are thinking of at places like Codex is what we should have. And before I come to that, I'm going to spend a minute or so on trying to explain to you the technology that works behind all of this funky stuff. To that, I'm going to quickly run through the two different types of artificial intelligence that companies have been using in the market. One is statistical AI and the other one is symbolic AI. So, good way to explain statistical AI is the Greek god Dionysus, right? So, it's emotion-based, it's case-by-case, it weighs probabilities, it's more like the right brain stuff, right? The stuff that we just talked about in premonition, in case crunch, and in Lex Machina, stuff that can help you predict. Symbolic AI, more like the Greek god Apollo, is rule-based, represents formalism, is left brain. So he's more like a tough guy. The reason why both of them are important is because anyone who's actually practiced law or understands law will tell you, especially in the context of common law, that law is a mixture of these both. Any judge who's making a decision uses his left brain and his right brain equally to ensure what they call justice. And today, we have a great marriage of these two technologies that allows you to replicate precisely what they do. Now I will quickly tell you about computational law. So what computational law looks to do is to harness both the Greek god Apollo and the Greek god Dionysus to get you the best case result. But it even tries to do something a little better. It says, gee, law and lawyers are all about gobbledygook. We keep talking about stuff in different ways. why can we not make law a little more mathematical? A little more like what engineering students do in their curriculum. Something that people know will happen for sure. So they said, gee, why can't we write law in code? Why can't the Constitution be in code? Why can't legislation be in code? And this is not stuff for future. We actually do have pilot projects where legislation has been written in code. The Constitution has been attempted to be written in code in Africa, and it's called Legal XML and DocML. And what that will do is to help you imagine a world where the Constitution answers questions just like Google, where the law answers questions just like Google. Gee, did I do this right? Did I do this wrong? Am I going to get arrested? Should I be worried? And the law will answer that question for you. What it also does, fundamentally, it changes the entire process of lawmaking. It changes the entire process of how law is declared by courts. It changes the entire process of how law is practiced. And most importantly, it changes the entire process of how law is consumed by we, the citizens. I'd love to talk more about computational law, but since I'm impaired by time, I'm quickly going to tell you that the world will look different, and the jury's not out on that. The genie is out of the bottle and you can't put it back in. But whether or not these technologies will succeed are not dependent on how good these technologies are, but are more dependent on whether we will learn to trust these technologies. Whether the community that comprises of justice administration will learn to trust and use these technologies. Two good examples of that are examples from two ends of the spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, you have law firms, which are these age-old law firms in the United States and in the UK, which have been using technology, or rather, technology at the peripherals, but have been resisting change. The reason they resist change is because they don't like change. But the biggest surprise was, ever since most of this funky technology has been available in the last 3 or 4 years, these law firms have been outpacing each other to try and adopt some of these technologies. In fact, most law firms, large ones, have technologists and computer scientists on their board. Some of them, like Dentons, have started incubators. Dentons, in fact, has incubated one of the best technology companies called Ross Intelligence that uses IBM Watson's artificial intelligence engine. That's on the one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum is what you see before you. It's a news article from the ABA Journal where a lawyer is suing a technology firm, and this is not the first and last time that a lawyer will sue a technology firm. Lawyers and bar associations have been suing technology firms for the past few years for illegal practice of the law. But what's interesting about this article is that in this article the lawyer says, gee, the technology firm can do things that I can do and even more. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reality of tomorrow. We cannot compete with AI the way we do business. The chasm between what we can do and what artificial intelligence can do is only going to widen. There is no way we can fight this beast. The best thing to do is to make friends with it and perhaps tame it. Therefore, to conclude, we live in an era today where even in the most loyal country, more than 70% of the population does not have access to a lawyer or to the justice administration system. I'm talking the United States and Canada. With technology, perhaps we will inherit an era where each one of us, if not all of us, would have access to justice, something that our founding fathers wanted in our preamble. I hope this was interesting.